About to be
Okay.
starting soon. Okay, we are live. So today, Ashley and I just wanted to have a casual conversation talking about all the different lab testing that we offer at Bloom Wellness because we have kind of added a lot over the years. And so we started out with thermography, we added ultrasound, we added FDN functional labs, and now it's like, oh my goodness, there's so many things that we can do for middle-aged women, postmenopause women, men, kids, the full spectrum. But I wanted to just share my screen and Ashley and I can go through some of the lab testing that we offer. It's all listed on our website. It's very, very easy to look at a lot of the details. And then we offer our free clarity calls. So a lot of people, when they're looking at the different lab testing options, they're not sure which ones would be best for them, where to start. You know, some clients want to do everything, some clients can only start with one or two labs. And that's why we offer a free call. Like there's no pressure. My goal anytime someone schedules a clarity call is to help them get to the next step, whether that's with me or if we have a conversation and they, really need more of like a medical route or medication or they have a lot of medications that need to be managed better or just different situations that come up. I will be 100% honest if I feel
Mhm.
like you need to be referred to XYZ person. But I would say 95% of the time we can obviously help most situations. And, regardless, that clarity call will be helpful to you, whether we move forward together or we help you get to the next step somewhere else. But we are more than happy to kind of talk through your health challenges, your health history a little bit, and help you decide like where to start and what would be the most effective thing, the most bang for your buck as far as getting started with labs. So let me share my screen and you can um, come along with us while we walk through some of these things. So this is our website. You just go to Advanced Labs. We don't have the option of buying labs through our website. I know like some places do that, and to me, it's just too overwhelming. And also, Ashley and I really like to customize the plan for people. Um, I tend to see like where you can get your own labs. It's kind of basic labs. It's not as extensive, or you're kind of like on your own figuring out what to order, and you might order the wrong thing. So I think that's just not wise. And so again, that's why we do the clarity calls. If you want to book a clarity call, you can click this book a free clarity call here. You can go to our booking page, schedule now button will take you to that. And you can select me or Ashley, or just select like, let me show you that real quick because I think sometimes people might get a little confused. But if you go to book an appointment at the main office, you can click on health consultations and then clarity call, and it's going to show you any availability that we have for booking that. And so let me go back to the labs, but super, super easy to schedule that. It's free. Take advantage of it. And then we can talk through the different options. So, is there a certain test you want to start with, Ashley?
Let's start with gut testing, my favorite.
Gut testing. I know, right? Um, and why is it our favorite? Why would you say that?
Well, I see so many women who have been dealing with like GI issues for so much of their life. And then we run a GI map and they're like, "Oh my God, this is why like I have dealt with this for 20 plus years, and it's just so oh my goodness, it just helps them see like they're not crazy. Like there's actually something going on, and like this
Yes.
IBS diagnosis that they've gotten literally just means your doctor doesn't know what's wrong with you. So,
Yes.
and this will help you figure that out. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I love it. Love a GI map.
Me too. And I think that one of the reasons why, okay, let me give you two examples. There was one lady the other day that I saw on social media, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, my son is really struggling with stomach pain all the time." And, she was responding to certain comments, and some people were asking her, "Oh, did you check for H. pylori, which is a bacteria that can cause stomach pain?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, tested negative." Well, I have to always like speak up for people when that happens
Yeah.
because my fear is that they go get a standard test for that and they're told that they don't have something and actually, that test missed it.
Hmm.
So, the reason why Ashley and I love GI Map, this is just one example of many situations where GI Map is super helpful, even if you've had gut testing with a doctor. Because unfortunately, like when you look at the research, a lot of times those H. pylori tests, they're not 100% accurate. And they actually miss quite a bit of H. pylori infections. And I have found that GI Map is the most sensitive and the most accurate at finding H. pylori when it's there. And people have suffered for years with GI issues, being told they didn't have that infection. And then when we do the GI map, it comes up clear as day and elevated and absolutely is a problem.
Yeah.
So that's one example. But then, of course, like it's very, so let's give an example of like a client, everyday client where they got some blood work done through their doctor and they're like, "Rebecca, I'm not feeling great, but I have blood work done. My doctor says everything's fine." And we take a look at your blood work. Ashley and I, we look at blood work with a much more in-depth perspective and view, which we'll talk about when we go over blood work options. But as an example, like, if we see that you have nutrient deficiencies or you have blood work markers that indicate GI inflammation or digestive issues, we see that all the time in blood work. What we can do is we can kind of support you, like superficial support, like we can give you some nutrients because you've got those deficiencies. But hey, let's
Adjusted
go
in time or
upstream. Let's go upstream
yeah.
and find out why you have deficiencies. Because if you have H. pylori, if you have low stomach acid, if you have SIBO or LIBO, like bacterial overgrowth, or parasites, like, hey, all those things are going to mess with your nutrient levels to begin
Hmm.
with. So we got to fix like the holes in the boat, so to speak. Instead of trying to like take the buckets and pour the water out of the boat, let's plug the holes.
Yeah.
And when we've got, that kind of like goes right into leaky gut. We've got little holes in our gut from leaky gut. Then we've got chronic inflammation. Then we
Hmm.
have chronic cortisol elevation and high stress levels. Even when you're doing all the meditation and Zen stuff you can, if your gut's on fire, then you're constantly like high cortisol, you're puffy, you're holding on to water weight, you can't lose weight, you can't sleep well. Like, and a lot of these things, again, they can overlap with hormone stuff, they can overlap with some things, but this is why like the GI map, the gut test is just foundational. So that one for sure. I love this one. We do have this handout. Again, you can go to our website, click on gut testing, and you can see all this information that it talks about. And, who it helps. Literally, it should just say who it helps, everyone.
Literally
It should
everyone.
just
Yeah.
say everyone because, like,
Right.
there's nobody that wouldn't benefit from optimizing their gut health better. I think we live in a very chemical laden world. And most of us, sadly, have had antibiotics at a certain point. Some of us, a
Hmm.
lot of antibiotics from a young age. There's different things that could have massively messed up our gut. And we've been dealing with it for a long time. And many times people will have like the classic GI symptoms. But if you look at this, like anyone with autoimmune, Hashimoto's
Yeah.
is
Ugh.
huge. Hypothyroid, Hashimoto's, we've got to work on the gut
Hmm.
because if you've got H. pylori or a parasite or bacterial overgrowth, your immune system is going to be reacting to that. And the more it reacts, the more it's going to rev up the immune system against your thyroid as well. So that's
Yeah.
critical.
Or if you're
Um,
somebody with that deals with like a lot of histamine reactions, like skin
100%.
issues and things like that, like you breaking out into hives all the time or eczema or any of those things, a lot of
Yeah.
times that's a
If you
gut
can't
issue.
live without Claritin and Zyrtec,
Yeah, you need a GI
then
map.
yes, yes. So because we've got a slew of different types of bacteria and even parasites and fungal overgrowth and different pathogens that produce high amounts of histamine, or they might produce chemicals that give you a difficult time with sulfur. So like if eggs or garlic or onions are a big trigger for like bloating and feeling gassy or feeling bad, then it's very likely we have bacterial issues in the gut. Or again, if you've got any like itchiness or hives or like you react to exercise or a hot shower, any of those histamine things, headaches, reflux. A lot of these things are histamine driven, and even insomnia and sleep issues. We've got to calm down the chaos in the gut so that you can relax and you can rest and sleep. And I currently like there's kiddos that have like focus issues or behavioral
Mhm.
outbursts. Like they're just on edge and they're very easily irritated and that kind of thing. I mean, there are reasons why their brain is so on edge. And usually it's inflammation, and a lot of that is gut inflammation that creates more brain inflammation. So on here, there's also like anxiety and depression. I recently saw like some really good research. I wish I had it pulled up right now, but really good research coming out on depression being more of like an inflammatory issue. And the
Yeah.
more you learn about root cause health, it's like inflammation is everything, and figuring out why you have this inflammation is key. Migraines, headaches, allergies, anemia. My gosh, how many people are struggling with anemia? And
Yeah.
that's a major thing. And if you have low thyroid, I always like to check for anemia too, because those can go hand in hand. And then the other like loophole with this is oftentimes I see, which it's not even listed on here because there's just could go on forever, to be honest. But one of the things I would probably add to this list is heavy cycles,
Hmm.
PMS, like mood swings, all the estrogen dominant type issues are going to be worse if we have
Especially
GI
ladies, if
issues.
you are not going to the bathroom at least one time a day, then you are going to end up with hormone issues because you cannot detox your excess hormones if you are not going to the bathroom every day. So the GI map helps you figure out that.
True.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. So I love this one. I love that like it's an easy, super, super easy test to do. No, it's not pleasant to do because it's a stool sample. Nobody likes to do it,
Eh,
but it is the quickest. It is painless,
yeah.
for the most part. And you
It's a good
can
one for kiddos too
yeah,
because it's
you can
not,
do it on your kiddo.
yeah.
Anybody can do it. It's mailed to your house. You don't have to come to our office in Houston. You can do this anywhere. And then you send it off to the lab, and we get the results back in a few weeks and set up a video call so that we can go through the results with you together. We can talk about like what would be the reason why your gut test results are off. I think that's really a key difference with me and Ashley is we're not just looking at the lab results and trying to treat the paper. We're
Yeah.
actually looking at that. We're looking at your diet. We're looking at your lifestyle and your history and saying, okay, this is likely why we ended up here with all this bacterial overgrowth because we want to empower you to know how to avoid getting back there in the future. So
Yeah.
we talk about things like how to eat during the day, how to, avoid fluids with your mealtime, like all kinds of different tips and tools that you can use for the rest of your life to maintain that gut health improvement. Of course, we give like specific support and recommendations, herbs and things like that, timelines and doses and things that are specific so that it can be effective.
Mhm.
Um, and not just some random like cleanse online. It's no, we want to make sure we're spending money on supplements in the best way, the most effective way for you. And we obviously want to avoid antibiotics, which sometimes throw things off even more. So yeah, we're very passionate about using natural means as much as possible. And if there's anything that looks concerning, we'll refer out for medical evaluation if that's something that comes up. But thankfully, we don't have that very often. Um, so this is again, one of the foundational tests for sure. And then we have this other page where we talk a little bit about some other tests that could be added on or kind of round out a little bit more. Some people want to do food sensitivity testing, and everybody kind of has a different approach to this one. So Ashley is like, we don't need to do food sensitivity testing until after we've done a GI map, after we've done gut protocol to
Yeah.
heal the gut, because most food sensitivities are from the damage that's going on in the gut.
Yeah.
So she wants to fix the gut first, let it calm down, heal it up,
And then
minimize your food
yeah.
sensitivities. Yeah.
And then see
And
what you're
then,
actually sensitive to with a healthy gut, because you may have
Mhm.
some sensitivities that aren't going to go away, but like what are you like if your gut's a mess, then you're going to be reacting to a million other foods, So it's like
Yeah.
let's figure out, let's heal the gut and then see what are you actually sensitive to. So,
hmm Yep. And when I talk to people about this, usually I don't bring up food sensitivity testing. Usually clients are the ones who bring it up because it's really popular.
yeah.
And I'm certainly not against food sensitivity testing. It has a time and place for sure. Um, Sometimes, like when I look at someone's blood work or I look at their symptoms, and they're already eating clean, they're already gluten-free, they're already dairy-free, they're already, pretty organic, whole food, and they're still really inflamed, their gut's a mess. Sometimes I offer it as an option because I'm
Mhm.
like, maybe this would be if you're up for it. I never offer it to people who are going to be struggling with overwhelm. I try to give this as an option to people who can handle the stress of removing a lot of foods. And so, but that's a good option for some people. And again, this is why we do clarity calls
Mhm.
because we don't just say everybody needs this test. Now the GI map, yes, but this one, it's like we want to talk to you. We want to see like, are you able to mentally take on the load of food sensitivity testing? And would it be worth the cost and worth the effort and stress of it? And sometimes clients are like so miserable and they've got so much inflammation. Like, for instance, if they've got constant migraines, this was one that was really pivotal for a client with really horrible migraines because it was a way to quickly lower her current inflammation levels. She handled it fine. She was not, she was like up for anything. And that was something we could do while we were waiting for the GI map results and like doing the plan and everything, just to knock down the inflammation a little bit. Now, there's supplements that oftentimes I will reach for in the meantime if someone's struggling. We want to do some things right off the bat to give a little bit of symptom relief when we can, because sometimes the labs take a little bit of time. But sometimes I'll use this test. So it's an option, it's a good add-on. And if you're gonna do food sensitivity testing, like if you're like, I definitely want to do that, um, it I would say that MRT is one I prefer over like things like Everlywell online
Mhm.
because to me it's just more comprehensive of checking your inflammation responses from foods versus specifically just IgG. IgG typically is more so a response to your exposure to it.
Right.
So it's like if you've been eating it recently, it's probably going to come up. Whereas with the MRT, it might be foods you've never eaten before, or it might be foods that you do eat regularly, but like it's only going to come up on the MRT if you have an inflammatory response to it. And one thing real quick before we keep going is I guess the difference. So a lot of people are like, well, I had food allergy. I had allergy testing done with my doctor. And
Yeah.
the difference is like allergies are an immediate response. They're very fast and they're more dramatic. And so most people know if they have an allergy to something. And it can be helpful to get IgE testing done just to rule that stuff out or to know, like, that's a major thing for me. It doesn't tell you if you have a delayed immune reaction. And so some people eat a food and then 2 days later they have an inflammatory response. And so this test really helps clarify like which ones are going to be more inflammatory and that can be just kind of one of those like strategies for people who are really struggling with inflammation big time if they want to add that on. So certainly not necessary, but an option. And then gluten and celiac testing. Sometimes people have their GI map test results come back where we see some gluten reaction coming up there. It's only one protein out of several, so it's not the most comprehensive way to check for gluten sensitivity. So sometimes, like if I suspect someone has malabsorption issues, a lot of nutrient deficiencies, or, just a little bit more suspicion for this, I might recommend that they just rule this out. It's something that you can do very easily. It's a simple blood test. You can even do like a finger prick. It's super easy to do. It's not that expensive, and it's pretty important. It goes really, really undiagnosed. And I always tell people, like, even if you're not celiac,
Mhm.
gluten sensitivity can be just as damaging, sadly. So it's like either way, we want to take that seriously if it comes up. But if it's celiac, then of course that's like a very, very serious issue that needs to be. I mean, you won't know, like you don't know unless you test. So it's good to check for that sometimes. And then the organic acids test, the reason why we have this on the gut testing handout is because it's a really cool test. It's actually a urine test and it looks for fungal, some mold, very, very minimal mold. So mycotoxin testing is better for mold, but also Clostridia and oxalate levels, some neurotransmitter nutrient things. So it's a little bit of gut evaluation, but also more systemic and mood and different things like that. So if someone has GI issues, histamine issues, it's a really good like complement to the GI map because fungal issues can be anywhere in the body. And so if I suspect someone has fungal issues, I think this is a good one to add to the GI map because it tends to pick it up a little bit more sensitively. Do you have anything to add about the oat test,
No,
Ashley?
I think you covered it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great for kiddos as well, like behavioral issues or someone who has anxiety. Um, it's a great one to add on. It checks a lot of different things in one simple urine test. It's super easy as well. So all of these are kits that are mailed to your house, and then we get the results and go over that with you and make sure you understand your results and what to do with them and follow up from there. So after gut testing, let's talk about blood work because this is one that is what most people are familiar with through their doctor. And the nice thing about what we like to do, I used to use a lot of like set panels with blood work. And now I feel like it's nice because I'll get to talk to somebody on a clarity call and we can figure out exactly what we want to check in their blood work. And we might add on hormones or we might add on extra vascular markers if they've got heart disease risk issues. We might add extra digestive markers if needed, or different nutrients that are really important. But we're looking at a full thyroid panel. That's so important. Um, we look at, some of these markers are not going to be included on your regular doctor's labs. So we definitely like to be more thorough, especially when it comes to like blood sugar and methylation and nutrients. But and then of course iron. I think that's really important. Is there anything you want to chat about with blood work? I mean, I know this is kind of like a big lab, like we kind of want it on everybody, to be honest. It's one of those things where I'm like, do you have any blood work available? If not, let's kind of fill the gap. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I think, well, and the other thing to note too is like we're not just looking at that like your doctor is. We're looking at blood work
Hmm.
to make sure one that you're in an optimal range because the standard ranges for blood work are huge. And the standard range for blood work is based off of the average person in our country, which if we think about it, the average person in our country isn't exactly healthy. So, we don't really want to just be within that average range. We want to be within an optimal range. And so when we look at it from a functional perspective, we're looking to make sure that you're optimal. The other thing too is we're not just looking at it like, oh, check, check, check. Like we're looking at things to point to clues that are further in the body. Like there's lots of markers that can indicate that there's low stomach acid or that there's GI issues or even parasites and things like that. So we're looking at that to give us clues as to what else is going on in the body too. So, it's so worth it to get a full panel, and then when we talk about thyroid too, like a lot of times your doctor is going to be like, oh no, your thyroid is fine, but the only marker that they looked at is TSH. Well, like your TSH may be fine, but what about your T4 and T3? Like what's going on there? Because those things can impact it a lot too. So you may actually be hypothyroid, but your TSH looks fine.
Hmm.
So, it's so worth it to get all of those markers and then to get it analyzed from a functional perspective too, to make sure that it's not just okay, but it's actually optimal.
Yes, yes. And I think that, our expectation when this is the average person, their expectation is that they're going to go to their doctor, they're going to get blood work done, and the doctor is going to tell them anything and everything about their blood work. And the reality is that the insurance like is gonna pay the doctor for like 15 minutes of their time, maybe. And they've got to move so fast and they don't our healthcare system isn't set up for doctors to be able to take the time to dig into your diet, your lifestyle, your digestion. Like they don't have time. They have to look at your blood work and look to see if you need medical intervention, if you need a prescription or surgery or further evaluation for something serious. That's all they're checking for. So that what's sad is that they're not upfront and like communicating that with patients. Like I wish doctors could just be like honest, not that they're being dishonest, but I wish they could be more clear to patients like, "Hey, I'm just checking for medical problems.
Yeah.
If you're looking for wellness, if you're looking for health, like you
You
got
want
to
to
go
actually
somewhere
feel good.
else."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because that's the truth. It's the truth. That's sadly, that's the system we're working with. So when someone comes to me and Ashley to look at their blood work, it is 100% different experience. We're looking at your intake forms. We're asking you questions about your diet. We're asking questions about your stress, your lifestyle. And some people, they might dilly-dally getting the forms back to me when I'm looking over their blood work and I'm like, "Hey, I really need your
Yeah.
intake, the context because like, I don't know how much protein you're eating, and that can help me interpret your blood work correctly." So think about the difference between a doctor skimming blood work numbers and seeing, okay, everything's in the lab range, this person's fine, send them on their way, versus someone who's digging into all these factors of your life, figuring out any little thing that's starting to go off track. We're not to the point where you have a medical problem and you need intervention,
Mhm.
but we're starting to go in that direction. So why wouldn't we inform you of that sooner when we can do natural things to help you get back on course and avoid those bigger problems? So that's our goal. Our passion is to help you be preventive and proactive and not wait until you have to go on, something that you don't want to take every day.
Right.
And the other thing too is like, my gosh, how many times have I seen this is countless where women get, if they get hormone testing through their doctor, it's like one or two markers, and then guess what? The doctors, I swear, they never tell them when to get their blood drawn.
No,
They'll just tell
no.
them, fine, fine, I give in. I'll give you your hormone testing. Here you go. The patient goes and gets their blood work done, you know, maybe on their period or something. And I'm like, gosh darn it, you're going to have no hormones to look at, so that's
Yeah.
another thing is like we will tell you to not have biotin for a few days before your blood draw, to be hydrated, and to not be sick for a couple weeks before your blood draw, and to do it at the right time of the cycle of your monthly cycle so that we can actually get good quality blood work. So there's so many ways where our approach is going to be different from your regular doctor's office visit that, again, it's night and day. And I mean, every single time that Ashley and I go over blood work without fail, it is so enlightening for people, and they are so grateful that someone is educating them on so much more about their blood work and giving them so many action steps and tools to be healthier, to be optimal. Like I wish this was like the norm,
Yeah.
but we are trying to change that for people, and people deserve that. People deserve someone, a professional, slowing down and taking their time and looking at all of this in detail and putting the pieces together. And not just saying, oh, your vitamin D is low. Let's give you vitamin D. Well, if you're magnesium deficient, if you're low in vitamin A, if you have chronic inflammation, that's going to lead to low vitamin D. If you have poor fat digestion and absorption, that's going to lead to low vitamin D.
Hmm.
So we can't just be shortcut practitioners and stop at like the basic, your vitamin D is low, let's give you vitamin D. We've got to look at why your vitamin D continues to need to be supplemented. Where's
Yep.
all this inflammation coming from? That's what I see all the time. When someone has low vitamin D, I always see high inflammation.
Mhm.
So that's the issue. Same thing with cholesterol. High cholesterol, no, we don't need to do red yeast rice. We need to figure out why your liver is struggling and why your inflammation is high. Is your thyroid low and causing higher cholesterol? Like there's other things. So, um, anyway, that's my little soapbox for today with with the blood work.
Mhm.
Um, and if someone comes in, let's say they have mood issues. They're like really struggling with anxiety. One thing, just a little random tip. Of course, I want to look at all the things, but one thing I would probably add would be copper and zinc levels,
Mhm.
because it's really helpful to see what the ratio is between zinc and copper. Another marker that would be good for someone who's really chronically stressed and anxious would be like homocysteine. Maybe they're slow methylator, and
Mhm.
meaning they detox slower and they have a harder time with toxins, and they need more nutrient support and they need more detox support, because that can cause a lot of stress. And then, of course, like if it's been something they've dealt with long term, like ever since they were a kiddo, maybe they didn't have any trauma in their childhood, but they've just always been more anxious or depressed, um, then I would check for pyrrole disorder, which is actually a urine test, but that's something we can order on the blood work requisition form. But So just as an example of like, what are some of the add-ons I would do with someone coming to me with XYZ issue? Any examples for you, Ashley, of like a certain common, let's say what's a common scenario where you're like, okay, these are the things we would want to make sure we check.
Chronic fatigue, I see that one a
Mm,
lot, and so we want to make sure, one, is the thyroid functioning the way it should be? How are the adrenals? So we're looking at, I mean, we're looking at all of these different things, iron levels, all of that can cause some of that, um, because a lot of times there's answers in just like your fairly standard blood work
yeah.
that can help us. I mean, I had a girl yesterday that she had her the blood work that her doctor told her was normal, and we found like 14 things on there that needed to be optimized,
Wow.
and so it's like, no, I mean, yes, it was normal, but it was certainly not optimal, and so she walked
Meaning that,
away.
she didn't need an iron transfusion
Right,
because
yes.
her ferritin was 0. She didn't need diabetes medication. It's like that's what they're
She was still
checking
gonna
for.
live. Yeah, like she
Yeah,
wasn't
you're gonna
dying.
live. Are you gonna be feeling good? Probably not, but
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely that gray area between like being sick and not feeling good. And so that's why it's great to get a functional perspective.
100%. That's one of my favorite things to do because most people have blood work from their doctor,
Hmm.
and it can be one of the quickest, easiest ways to open their eyes to the difference between regular doctor and functional approach. And even like, and I don't ever want to like bash other people who are trying to help people, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that come to us after they've already spent thousands at a big fancy functional doctor. I mean, I see a lot of clients who have shelled out huge amounts of money,
Hmm.
and then they come and see me and they're like, oh my gosh, nobody has ever gone through the supplements and the blood work and the gut tests like to this extent. And so it's really nice. Like this is a very, very quick, easy. If you have blood work available from your doctor right now and you're like just curious, like, okay, Rebecca and Ashley, they seem to know some things, but I don't know if they can really help me. Schedule a second opinion consult and fill out the intake forms, email us your blood work. And I mean, I can almost guarantee because literally I've never had one conversation where people are not appreciative and like surprised and how much they learn.
Yeah.
And so that
We'll
that would be
find something on there that needs to
that
be
would be a good
fixed.
first step if you're on the fence about working with
Mhm.
us. It's been great for people. Super, super helpful. Um, so I love that one, obviously. And that can be another good first step when someone comes to us and they've got like kind of a mysterious blend of issues going on.
Mhm.
Sometimes blood work is a good one to start with. Obviously, we love the testing regardless for everyone, even our mystery clients, especially. But blood work would be another one where I would really want to look at the whole picture, the whole like overview of things with blood work. Dutch hormone testing, we adore, of
Mhm.
course. There's so many reasons why we like this, but for me, I love the hormone Dutch test because it's so much more than hormones.
Mhm.
That's why. Um, and because it aligns with Ashley and I's approach to health, that all these things are connected and they're not separate pieces. So
Mhm.
when you go to someone who says, yeah, we do hormones, and they just do hormone testing and all they're looking at is actual hormones, red flag.
Yeah, that's not
Because
a functional approach.
no, because so many things cause your hormones to be out of whack. And let's say they tell you, oh, this hormone's low. We got to give you this hormone. But they're not actually looking to see how your body will handle that hormone.
Mhm.
So it can backfire and make you feel worse.
Yeah.
Or maybe you feel fine, maybe you feel better, but you don't realize it's actually increasing your risk for things like breast cancer and, you know, pelvic issues and it's not safe. So, and you don't necessarily feel that problem until it's a big problem. So, this is a really, really, really amazing test, especially for anyone on hormone therapy, because you want to do it safely
Hmm.
and make sure that that estrogen is going down a healthy pathway. So, if you're on estrogen, you need to get an estrogen metabolism test, and that's part of this panel.
Yeah.
What do you want to jump on and say about the Dutch test? Because I
So
know
the
you've got a lot to say.
I love the Dutch. So the Dutch test is great at figuring out kind of why hormones are not balanced to begin with, because it's great to know like overall levels in blood work and stuff like that. Like that's obviously we want to know those things. But for somebody, especially for somebody who's had their like who's had hormones tested in blood and then like nothing has really improved, this is such a good test to figure out why things are off in the first place, because it's not just looking at your overall hormone levels, but it's looking at how they're being metabolized through the body. So, it's looking at, okay, well, you're estrogen dominant. Well, why are we estrogen dominant? Where's estrogen going? Like, how's it being cleared? Same thing, with your androgens, what pathways are those going down? And then obviously also too, it looks at the cortisol pattern, which can be like I find that to be so validating for so many women, especially women who are dealing with things like chronic fatigue and stuff like that, because it's like, okay, well, you're waking up in the morning and you're exhausted. Well, your cortisol is like super, super low first thing in the morning, and they're like, oh my God, makes so much sense, So it can be super validating to understand like why you feel the way that you do, and then to really get to the root of like what's driving some of these hormone imbalances, because usually it's more than, it's not just a testosterone issue. It's usually something higher up, like further downstream that is causing the testosterone issue in the first place. So it's so good to look into those things. And it's an easy test to do too. It's a dried urine test. It's a kit that comes to your house, kind of like the GI map, but it's the dried urine. You do it a few times a day. And it's one that's pretty easy too, because you can like, it doesn't have to be shipped back right away. I mean, ideally you want to send it as soon as possible, but it doesn't have to be shipped right away. So like if you have to, hold off on shipping it for a little bit, it's not like you have to freeze it or anything like that. So it's a fairly simple one, and it gives a lot of great information.
Yeah, and anyone who's got hormone related symptoms, symptoms that really flare up around their cycle, if they have irregular cycles, if they have, of course, perimenopause is going to be that irregular time of life. But even before perimenopause, we have a lot of ladies who have irregular cycles at a younger age. And then, the classic like low libido, muscle loss, like muscle weakness, weight gain, low motivation, hair loss. Like there's so many things, of course, breast symptoms, and like she said, fatigue. So many of these things can, of course, we want our hormones to be working for us and not against us. So that's certainly a very important thing to consider test wise. And then for some other things that we dig into, I would say that this top row, like the gut testing, Dutch blood work, those are probably the most common ones, but we also really love our HTMA mineral analysis test. Sometimes we will do a blood nutrient deficiency test. And then other times we might dig into mycotoxin testing, especially some people know they've had mold toxicity exposure and they want to know what types of mold and toxins. And that can be helpful to kind of strategize a better protocol to make you be more successful with that, because there's certain types that you would want to avoid certain
Yeah.
supplements with different types of toxins. This one pretty unfortunately, it's a somewhat common issue in Houston and South Texas. We've got humidity out the wazoo. We've
Yeah.
got water leaks. Anywhere in the country, you can have a leak from your fridge or your HVAC or your shower pan, or there's all these different like little weak spots in homes, no matter where you live, that can, be sneakily adding water in in the walls, and then that wall material becomes food for mold.
Yeah.
And it can happen very quickly. So a lot of people tell me, "Oh, I have a new house. It's only a few years old." This can happen in days. I
Mhm.
hate to say that because it's depressing to think about, but it's like there's even this is the worst thing that I've seen recently. It's a lady in Houston. She got a brand new home. She's going through a lawsuit with Lennar Homes over
Mhm.
this. And her house, it was disgusting. She showed pictures and videos. It was like caked everywhere. And this is a brand new home, but they installed the HVAC system incorrectly. And so she's probably like the worst case scenario example of my point. But all that to say, like, this is something that most people want to dismiss immediately because they don't want to deal with it. And I totally understand that. And most people will tell me, like, well, everyone has mold. Mold is everywhere. And I'm like, yes, it is, but there's different levels of
Mhm.
mold. So there's different types and there's different amounts. And unfortunately, there's different levels of sensitivity. Some people can handle it better. And some
Yeah.
people have methylation issues or detox issues, genetics can play
Mhm.
into it, and they might have a much harder time handling that environment. And to some people are treated as if it's in their head and they're dramatic and they just want attention and they're not really that bad. Or I feel fine. I don't know why you don't feel fine. Um, but they might have a much harder time handling that environment. And so what's nice, the good news is that if you do have this issue, you can find the source. If it's in your HVAC system, like I had a client that had a lot of these symptoms. Look at these symptoms. Let me zoom in so people can see better. Um, Chronic severe fatigue, where like you are just plain exhausted. And this is when, like, hey, your thyroid comes back fine. You're anemia. You don't have anemia. You don't have all these other reasons. Then I would suspect this. I would at least check for it. Um, Chronic headaches or migraines, like, and I'm not saying mold is the thing that causes all these problems. But when someone comes to me and they have several of these things, then I'm like, have you checked for mold? Do you know that that's a thing? If they've got vertigo, if they've got POTS syndrome, if they've got interstitial cystitis, if, blurred vision for no reason, there's some really weird issues that can come up. And I just feel like it's a disservice if I don't bring this up to
Mhm.
someone dealing with all these issues. It's like, gosh, we could spend so much money on supplements and therapies and labs. And if you are constantly breathing in really high loads of mold every day, like, I don't know how we can get fixed with
Mhm.
that kind of environment. And some people, they don't have this issue, and thank God for it. I'm always grateful when mold is not a problem. But it is often enough to where, we obviously offer this testing. There's a lot of different types of tests available to look at different aspects of this issue. But I would say for, internal purposes, like probably the number one I would pick would be a mycotoxin panel. And I would say you want to make sure, like we would want to talk to you first and make sure that your detox pathways are open first, because you don't want to do this expensive test and then realize, oh, my detox pathways are so blocked up, none of the toxins are coming out of my body because I'm not able to detox anything. So sometimes we got to work on your health first, and then we do the mycotoxin panel to get accurate levels. And then some people, like, this is a $15 eye exam, like screening tool that a mold specialist physician developed. You can do this online and check it. It does an eye exam and it does a questionnaire. And between all those things, it will tell you if it suspects mold toxicity as part of the issue. So, it's something to think about if you're dealing with a lot of these really difficult conditions. People with Lyme, MS, Parkinson's, some of those really difficult neurological issues. It may not be the cure for that completely, but it 100% is going to make it so much more difficult if you do have high levels of mold in your body to overcome any of those kind of issues. So hopefully that makes sense. Did you want to add anything else?
No, that's it's a good one, like, especially too if you're somebody who's like been on the functional health journey and you haven't made the progress that you expected to make. Like, let's say I've got
Yeah.
clients who, we've done the GI map and we've done the hormone testing and we've like worked on all those things. I actually had a client and we'd done all those things, and then she's like, she's still dealing with like some lingering GI issues. And I was like, man, like your GI map looks good now. Like, well, I don't know. And then I asked her, I was like, have you been exposed to mold? And she's like, yeah, we actually just had our house like taken care of like a couple months ago. I was like, that would have been good to know. And I mean, we've worked together for a long time, but I was like, you did not mention that to me. I was like, we probably needed to be checking this. And sure
Yes.
enough, there it was. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. If you've
yeah,
done all the things and you're like, okay, well, I did the gut testing, I did a gut, support,
yeah,
my hormones have been balanced and my blood work is, pretty decent. Like, why am I still
yeah,
chronically like all these, and especially when it's like multiple things stacking as far as like symptoms and neurological, like nervous system issues and chronic inflammation, even though all the things are like fixed, like
yeah,
it's 100% worth checking
yeah,
for just to make sure because
yeah.
I've seen it, Ashley's seen it, and it's like if we can just clean the environment. I always think of it like a fish in a fish tank. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if anyone else has had fish before, but whenever your fish is sick, it's almost always to do with the fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something in the fish tank that is making them sick and it's an unhealthy environment. So to me, I feel like, we're trying to fix something that's in a dirty environment that's very hard to heal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, something to think about. And a lot of people, they're like, I don't smell anything, I don't see anything. I've had some people where it's solid black mold behind their tile. They don't see it. Or behind wallpaper. You start peeling the wallpaper
Or in
and
the
it's
AC vent.
solid.
That was,
In the AC, yes,
when they
yes,
pulled
yes,
that out, it was, oh God, it was disgusting.
yes. And I've had clients where they started remediation. They thought it was okay. They thought it was fixed. They didn't retest afterwards because they went off of the remediation guy's advice. And then later on, a year or two later, and they're like, gosh, we're still struggling. Let's test again. And it's still high. They do
Mhm.
remediation again. And then while they're working on one thing, they just keep finding it. And I know that's like, of course, worst case scenario. Um, some situations it's just easier to move.
Yeah.
But it's also like shocking when that happens to my clients because every time me and the client, we're both like, no wonder, you know? Like, oh my God, there was like huge amounts in your closet and in your shower this whole time. We had no idea. So it's always like one of those like you hate to find it, but it's also like so relieving to find the
Mhm.
problem at the same time and like get rid of it, get that toxic stuff out. So, um, HTMA, we can talk about this real quick in neurotransmitters, and then that pretty much covers most things. I know there's probably some labs that we don't necessarily have on our website that we might pull a certain lab for you once we talk on a clarity call. But these are really like the primary labs that we're using, and the HTMA is a really cool one because one, it's one of the more inexpensive tests
Mhm.
that we can do. And it is so foundational for like your cellular health and your systems that run on minerals.
Mhm.
So most people know like how amazing magnesium is, right? But they might not realize all these other minerals that can be really helpful and important. And also like really looking at on a tissue level where some elevations might be that aren't going to show up in your blood work. Did you want
Yeah.
to talk about that a little bit?
No, I mean, I think that this one is just it's a good one, especially, if you're not able to identify things through blood work, this can be a great one to kind of figure out, why things still feel off in your body but are showing normal on blood work or even showing optimal on blood work. This can be kind of another like under the hood kind of test that can be really helpful. And it's easy. I like you said, it's easy to do. It's cheap. It's kind of one of those for a lot of clients. It's like a no-brainer. They're like, oh, why not? So
Yeah, one of my favorite reasons for the HTMA is like the top things I would say would be like someone who's struggling with fatigue, someone who doesn't detox well, like they're like I can't sweat, like I can go to the sauna and I don't sweat or I go work out and I'm not sweating. I know that person probably has some mineral imbalances. If they're cramping all the time, restless legs, if they have a lot of high stress, and then if they have like heart rhythm issues, like heart
Mhm.
palpitations, I definitely like to look at that because the heart is a muscle, it's neurological, and the minerals play a huge role in that. And the minerals also play a huge role in your adrenal function. Your adrenals really need the right amounts of sodium and potassium and B vitamins and vitamin C and things like that. And so when our mineral balance is off, our adrenals can really take a hit. And then that can play into our heart rhythm or our blood pressure, our blood sugar. Like all these things are two-way streets. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure we're supporting from both directions on some of these issues and make it easier for you because some people they'll be like, Rebecca, I eat so clean and I still have blood sugar issues and I still have blood pressure issues and I'm eating really well. I'm like, okay, we got to figure out your stress. So cortisol, the Dutch test, HTMA, figure out like maybe there's a mineral imbalance that's creating this issue with your heart or your stress. And then also thyroid. This is a big one. So like when someone comes to me and they have like all the thyroid symptoms, but even their full thyroid panel looks pretty decent. I'm like, I wonder if you have a calcium shell. And that's where there's a buildup of calcium in the tissue level. It's not going to show up in blood work. And that's where it creates this like calcium buffer to where it's harder for your cells to respond to your thyroid hormones. So even with your perfect hormone thyroid levels, the blood, it can't impact up. And that can be from copper dysregulation or iodine deficiency, vitamin K, different things that can allow that situation to come up. And even trauma and stress can cause an increase in calcium buildup. But we work through those things and we start to chip away at that calcium buildup. We start to balance out your minerals. And then all of a sudden, you can have your thyroid hormones work the way they're supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, and we see that with anemia too, because minerals are really involved with iron recycling and iron use and um, copper and all those relationships. And some people will take, especially around COVID time, they were taking so much zinc, so much vitamin D.
Yep.
And vitamin D increases your calcium, and zinc can lower your copper so much, it can even lower your sodium over time if you're overdoing it. So it can throw things off. Like when we're taking large amounts of supplements, you might be taking a lot of supplements thinking that it's, good for you because you read an article about, this and that supplement and how important they are. but those articles aren't looking at your labs, they aren't looking at your health. And so you unfortunately might be taking something that is honestly not helping you and potentially harming you. So a lot of women don't realize like taking calcium, for example, can increase plaque in your arteries and increase calcifications in your breasts and in different areas of your body. And it's not good. Now
Yeah.
you're told to take it for your bone health,
Hmm.
but there's so many other minerals and nutrients. And so the HTMA, I love this for like bone density support, like osteoporosis clients and stuff like that. It's just great for most people. And I like this one too if we can do it on kiddos, help them out, help them get more balanced. So that's a good one too for sure. Last but not least, I'll throw this one in here too, the neurofocus. This is the neurotransmitter test. It's a urine test, and it looks at all of these different neurotransmitters. I loved getting to go over not just this test. I did this neurotransmitter test and a GI map stool test on a young girl. And it was fun because we got the neurotransmitter test back first. And I was like, oh, honey, we've got exhausted adrenals that were causing low neurotransmitters. And then we had high histamine. I'm like, where is this histamine coming from? We looked at her gut and she was dead ringer for all these different histamine issues from her gut.
Hmm.
So if you've got focus issues, if you've got addictive behavior, aggression, anxiety, apathy, depression, so many people are struggling. And our country is just crazy medicated for these kind of issues. And, yes, you want to work with a professional in certain situations, but there is so much more than medication for you. Like, there is so much more. And so, this is one thing. Now, again, on a clarity call, we will talk about whether or not this is something that would be worthwhile for you.
Hmm.
Because even if you have anxiety, you don't have to get the neurotransmitter test done. We could start with blood work and GI map and that type of thing and go from there. But some people are struggling so bad and they might already be on medications for these things. And so in that case, this can be a way to get a more targeted supplement plan together to be a little bit more strategic in the meantime and try to support you with the medication scenario and all of that going on while we work through the gut. Because again, some of these root cause things, they're not overnight. It's not like taking a medication pill where you take it and you feel better. It sometimes takes time to work through some of these root cause issues. So in some situations, we might encourage you to get this urine test done so that we can get quicker improvement for you and get you feeling a little bit better. Like if someone's super depressed, it's really hard to get them motivated to exercise and take a bunch of supplements and eat better. So
Yeah.
sometimes we got to meet you in the middle. And that's something me and Ashley are really passionate about. It's like meeting you where you're at. And that's
Hmm.
why we do the clarity calls. They're free. You can schedule them online and you can talk to us about like, where do we start? Do I need something like this neurotransmitter test? Or if you're more stable and you're more like in a balanced state to begin with, we don't need to do neurotransmitter. We need to get into your gut. We need to get into your hormones and stuff like that. So, hopefully that makes sense. But this is one that I like to add in every now and then for someone who really needs it. And we can kind of get a plan going right off the bat while we work through root cause issues. So, but these are not root cause issues. These are symptoms of other issues going on in the body. So
Hmm.
while we can support these neurotransmitters getting balanced out, we have to find out why your neurotransmitters are off. And that comes back to your gut. That comes back to, your adrenals and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily a root cause test, but it can be really helpful for some people.
Yeah.
So,
And that's something we help you figure out on the clarity call too, is like That's one thing I know I'm super passionate about is like helping you figure out which labs are going to help to move the needle forward the most.
Yeah.
If you don't have thousands of dollars to shell out on labs, well, then let's figure out what are the one or two labs that are going to make the most difference for you, help you make the most progress as quickly as possible. So,
Yeah, I love that. And one last little note about lab testing through our office that I pretty passionate about is that we don't mark up our labs like crazy. I
mhm.
see other offices where they're offering the same exact lab for twice the
$300 more.
cost.
Yeah.
$300 more,
Yeah.
or I don't know why. I mean, I know why. It's money, right? I mean, at the end of the day, sure. But to me, it's just so sad because these labs are already expensive and people are already like scraping things together to get this one test done. Why make it twice as expensive as it needs to be? It's awful. So I will say we are very good about trying to keep the costs as low as possible because people will look at the price and be like, that's so expensive, Rebecca. And I'm like, well, it's as low as you're ever going to see because if you go somewhere else, it's probably going to be even more just for the lab, not even the consult. I think even our consult fees are typically a lot less than other like functional doctor's
Mhm.
offices. And so we want this to be accessible to you. And I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people are like, well, they might want to shop around for pricing. I will tell you right now, like we're just doing pretty much at cost fees for tests. So you don't need to waste time trying to make sure you're getting a good deal because you are. I promise.
Yes,
So,
for sure.
yeah, we just want to help people. So, if you guys have any questions, just reach out to us, comment on the video. We can comment back or we can reach back out to you. So, let us know if you have any questions or book a clarity call and
Yeah.
get on the books. So, all right. Well, y'all have a good one. Take
Bye.
care. Okay.
Okay, so I have an issue.
You what?
I have a problem.
What?
So you like pulled up the schedule the live schedule a clarity call, and I was like, why are there no appointments? It's not showing anything
Huh?
for me for my schedule.
That's weird.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
like, huh, like you cannot, and I'm like looking at it and it's showing I have bookable online. Turn on, stop it. No. Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing availability for you. So if I go back to here, why is it doing that? If I click on you and not showing my availability, and I
Like
click
this week, it
on
shows no availability. Like today through Friday. Yeah.
that, I do not know why. Oh, you know what? I wonder if because Alicia and we were like, we don't want people to schedule a lab review or something like
Uh-huh.
tomorrow. I don't think there's a way with the scheduling software to say, hey, for this type of appointment, we want people to book 4 days out,
Hmm.
or for clarity call, they can book tomorrow or today. Like we don't have that customizable option.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we set it up in your settings to where it gives you a few days, like they can't book like quickly.
I don't, well, I mean, like, because on my schedule, it shows, like, when I pull up my schedule, it shows that I'm open this week. But then online, it's not showing anything for the rest of this week.
I'm thinking that it's saying, where is the setting? Hmm. I thought there was a way where you could, it should be under online bookings settings. Display all availability. I limited it to like 6 slots per day because I just didn't want it to be like a million slots. Um, Allow post-service time, no staggering. This is really annoying because I swear there was a setting where you can say, I don't want someone to be able to schedule for me like tomorrow.
Hmm.
Hmm, that's really weird. It's not that. Well, I'm gonna have to reach out to
Alicia, would you know?
no, like the software, probably software support and ask them. So what would you want it to be? Like, because I guess our struggle is we don't want someone to schedule like a lab review for tomorrow and
Tomorrow.
you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I don't have enough time to prep.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I think like 5 days.
Okay, so if we do 5 days, then I think that would be like across the board. So then if someone's trying to schedule a clarity call, it'll go 5 days out. So that would be like Monday or Tuesday. So in that case, what we were seeing on your availability online is like following that rule. But
Mm,
again, I don't know where that setting is to where I can make sure it's set up correctly. But you want it 5 days, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Um,
I mean,
and then what I do for people, sometimes like I know they're not going to see a Wednesday or a Friday for me, but if I'm talking to them and I want to see them sooner,
mhm.
I'll just ask them like, "Hey, do you like when is a good time on a Wednesday or a Friday for you?"
Yeah.
Because I know I've got those days open and I can just manually book them in. Um, but if it's someone going online, like I don't want them to be able to just book wherever they want. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'll reach out to them and ask. Um,
Okay.
but I think that's how the settings are like a 5 day buffer for
Gotcha.
you. And I know for me, like I don't have much. Oh, here we go. Allow same day booking. Do not allow booking within 2 days. So maybe you have Friday. Do you have Friday blocked or something?
Nope.
Because it should just be like 2 days out. We should see openings for Friday afternoon if that's the case.
Oh, well, I only have Friday until 1, so maybe that's why.
Okay, because it's like 1:15 now.
Yeah.
So it's not going to show anything till Monday at this point. Okay. Well, I definitely don't want to give you less than 2 days.
Yep.
And I didn't realize this is like across the board.
Yeah.
Like that's insane to me because we're a big office and we have all these different things going on.
Yeah.
That's super frustrating that I mean, so many like struggles with softwares and picking one that has
Oh,
every,
and is this like 2 days? Don't allow booking within 2 days for everyone too?
yeah, for me,
Oh,
for you, for thermography, for ultrasound.
that's fine. Just keep it that way then. And then if somebody schedules, then I'll just, if I can't do it, then I will reach out to them and reschedule. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. Thankfully, I don't have that issue too much. I just make it work sometimes. Like, this is not a great scenario for me to have back-to-back consults on a Monday with like very little prep time. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna prep on either today or on Friday, you know?
Yeah.
So, oh well. Um, Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we're good there. I will download that video and
Yeah.
then I will start making short video clips. I'm excited.
Yeah. I think
We're gonna
that'll be
have
good.
a million clips, huh?
Yeah, I think that'll be good to for some marketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll put that on Instagram. I think there's probably I'll figure out like if there's a software or something. You know what? Maybe I can just do it in Instagram, like scheduling it, because I don't want to dump a bunch. I just want to like
Mhm.
drip it out. So it'd be nice to like get a bunch of clips done, schedule them
Yeah.
to drip out, have them tag you, you know, do hashtags, whatever. Do
Yeah.
hashtags even work anymore? I
I
don't
don't
even.
think so. I don't use them anymore. I don't think that they're really a thing. But I just like try not to even like with my social media stuff, I just don't even overthink it. I just post it. I don't go and I don't go look to see how many people viewed it or how many people liked it. I
Because you
don't
don't have
care.
time for it. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's fine. I put it out there and if something takes off, it takes off. If not, cool. I don't care. That's fine.
yeah,
So,
yeah, okay, that's good. Um, and then have you ever looked into like the whole comment thing? Because
as far
everyone's, as far as like, you put together a post, you have this like little information, and then you're like, comment this word, and it's like
oh,
an auto DM with a
yeah,
link.
I haven't, I mean, I'm busy, but I'm not busy enough to where I can't just DM somebody. So I haven't,
Yeah.
it would probably be good to look into, but I haven't. I'm also super like not tech savvy either, so I don't do all the things.
I looked into it briefly and I was like, oh, okay, I could potentially figure this
Yeah.
strategy out and take advantage of it, especially if we were to create like a 6 week challenge
Yeah.
or, some kind of offer or like the breast health online course, like something like that. I would
Yeah.
probably want to have that little system set up to where I can just post something about it and I know like people will get DMs of information and they can click
Yeah.
through and buy it or whatever and I don't
Yeah.
have to like handle it all.
Yeah.
But,
I would
okay, I
probably
was just curious if you had tried that or not.
no. I would probably just hire somebody to set that up for me, honestly. I don't want to have to.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah. I just don't have time to go learning a whole bunch of different things at this point.
For real.
So,
It's just the bane of my existence at this point.
yeah,
But
it's a lot.
I know, like the health stuff is enough for
Yeah,
our brains. Like that's plenty.
I
But
know. I
anyway,
know.
well, I'm gonna go eat something.
Okay.
So
Alrighty. I'll talk to you
you have a
soon.
good one. All right, bye.
Bye bye.